Welcome, I'm Bruce Munro, and with me is International Relations Specialist Professor Robert Patman, and this is Global Insight. It's been a big week in United States politics. Will it change the course of the presidential campaign? Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
This week, the US has passed the 200,000 mark for COVID-related deaths. What impact is that having on the presidential election campaign?
Quite a lot. Put this in perspective, America, as you said, lost 200,000 people and it's rising. That's the highest death toll for any country in the world. And in addition, to put this in perspective, as American commentators are saying, that's the equivalent of the casualties of 5 battlefield involvements, such as Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, plus others, if you roll those into one. So this is all, you've had 200,000 people die since the first COVID-19 cases were detected in the United States in February. And cumulatively, this is having a big impact, particularly given the fact that the president has, in his own words, downplayed the issue. He said he did that, according to Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward recorded a series of interviews with Donald Trump. And I think one thing that shocked some Americans is that they felt that President Trump was quite genuinely playing it down, that he didn't realise how dangerous it was. And that's why he was comparing it to the flu, so they thought it was almost an innocent mistake. Whereas what's devastating about the Woodward tapes is that he had a very good grasp of how deadly it was, but as he put it, he didn't want the American people to panic. But of course, some Americans saw that. They didn't accept that explanation for downplaying it. They thought the president was worried that this would become an election issue, which it has, of course. And Biden is zeroing in. Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee, he has focused on what is called the worst global health crisis in living memory. And he's not sparing Trump's handling of the crisis. So it is a big issue, and I don't think there's any signs of it going away.
Commentators outside the US tend to bag Trump. What are his supporters pointing to as his successes during his first term?
His supporters, I think we're talking about 35% of the voting public, would point to things such as changing the tax code, giving greater tax relief to people who were already earning reasonable amounts of money. He presided over the victory against ISIS and the killing of its leader, al-Baghdadi. I think other achievements, he had the economy moving along at about 4% a year growth, which was quite impressive until COVID-19. And COVID-19 has undone a lot of his economic achievements. And I think his most lasting impact will be on the Supreme Court, most powerful court in the United States. There are 9 members of the court, and it's the president who selects them. He's already selected 2 very conservative judges, and has controversies developed in the last 10 days because, and this links with the COVID-19 factor, because the president is determined to try to select someone to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who recently deceased, who was a member of the Supreme Court. He wants to replace her with another woman who's conservative. And from the Conservatives' point of view, that would be a great outcome because it would change the balance to 6 Conservatives and 3 candidates who were selected by Democratic presidents. So it's what's that got to do with COVID-19? Well, Joe Biden has made the point that if he pulls this off, and it's actually, to be fair, there's no guarantee he will pull this off, but he's attempting to do it in an election year, which many people see as highly partisan. But if he does pull this off, it means that he can accelerate the process of dismantling affordable healthcare. And as Biden put it in a speech a couple of days ago, that means that many people who have pre-existing conditions or the after effects of COVID-19, they've got COVID-19 and they've recovered, but it's left them with a number of long-term health conditions may not be able to get cover, unless, of course, they can afford private health care. So health has become a big issue, and it's very difficult to judge how it's going to play out, but we can see with Mr. Trump's comments about China, he's feeling very defensive about this issue. He's calling it the Chinese virus, and he said that China and the WHO are the villains in the piece, and they must be held to account.
In a surprise move this week, Cindy McCain, and she's the widow of the 2008 Republican presidential nominee John McCain, she's come out and endorsed Democrat Joe Biden. This seems like quite a slap in the face for Trump, but Joe Biden is 78 years old, I think. Is he too old for many voters to think he's worth voting for?
I don't think so. America is so incredibly polarised, Bruce, at the moment, that I think Biden is not a particularly strong candidate. I think but he's seen as politically safe. And I think the reason the Democratic Party establishment turned to Joe Biden is A, he's got experience and he's well known, and B, he's seen as someone who's a relatively safe pair of hands, who's not given to extreme solutions. They also believe that Bernie Sanders was not acceptable to many Americans. He was associated with socialism. He described himself as a democratic socialist, which is anathema in American political terms. So they believe that Joe was the best option available. That's the Democratic hierarchy. But I think he is a relatively weak candidate, and I don't think it's so much the age gap. I think Trump is mid-70s, 75, something like that. But I think it's how lively you are at a certain age, if you see what I mean. If you look at Bernie Sanders, he's still very vital, and he's older than Biden. But there's definitely, I think both Mr. Trump and Joe Biden have both shown signs of cognitive decline. And presidential campaigns are grueling. Although this one is less grueling because of COVID-19. They can't have the same number of rallies and campaign trips as before. So maybe that will change the dynamics of the contest. But I still think Cindy McCain's endorsement of Biden is important. It shows that there is quite a sizable number of Republicans who do not like the direction that Mr. Trump's going. And of course, Cindy McCain's not alone. People like Colin Powell have indicated they'll be voting for Joe Biden. And I think also the former president, George W. Bush, has indicated he probably would do as well. So there is some disaffection within the Republican ranks.
The people of the US vote for presidential selectors on November the 3rd, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then those selectors vote for the president and the vice president on December 14. Quite an unusual system compared with what we're used to here. When it's all said and done, who do you think will win the presidential election?
Well, on the face of it, and given that COVID-19 is not going away in a hurry, although President Trump may be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat if he can produce a vaccine. Currently there are 3 American vaccines, and I think President Trump is aware this could be a potential game changer. They're in the final tests at the moment, or in the stages of the final tests. If a vaccine can produce, which looks safe and very effective, and he's already said he wants to make it available globally, which was a change from his previous position. So, I think on balance, even if he does, if you like, pull a rabbit out of a hat at a relatively late stage, I think the death toll will have an impact on how people vote. The other thing we don't know is how Biden will perform in presidential debates. Now, you may say to me, well, the debates don't make too much difference. And I think given the polarised nature of American society at the moment, that's probably true. But for those voters who are what are called swing voters, it could be important. And I think it will be interesting to see how Biden can stand up to Trump. Trump sometimes is economical with the truth and creative, as somebody said, with facts, but he is a force to be reckoned with. He has tremendous drive, and he is mentally quick on his feet, and I'm just wondering if Mr. Biden can stand up to that. So we don't know, maybe he can. But I think that in the end, the contest may be much closer than it would appear to be on paper. It's very difficult to predict. I think Biden, all the polling evidence suggests that Biden has the edge, and you'd expect the result to reflect that.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Ka kite anō.